States in this decade.
I wasn't sticking up for Europe or anything.
No, I'm sticking up for Europe.
Oh, good.
I'm making a Chad's point. Europe has produced more jobs than the United States in this decade, and I believe it is because it's been serious about the environment and clean air and climate change.
But they all failed to meet these targets they set.
They
you know
didn't
that?
all. The UK and Denmark
a lot of them
have.
didn't. UK
and
didn't.
Sweden's going to meet
well,
theirs by 20
let me
years.
give you, wait, time out.
Quite a few of its own targets. You hear what they say in London.
Let me give you another example. We've tried to clean up the air you breathe inside here with a smoking ban. We tried to clean up the air outside by changing to taxi cabs that are more efficient and a different building code and doing all those things. And what's happened in New York City? Record number of tourists, 47 million this year, record economic growth, record number of companies coming here, people wanting to live here. I mean, I don't understand where you get this idea that going green is bad for the economy. You keep saying, well, you got to penalize people. I'm telling you, and the president and Wangari said it, and the same thing in Chad. You got to make it profitable for people, whether profit is a company on its balance sheet or people seeing their kids healthier, and they will do what's in their interest. And going green, I think that everybody understands, is in their interest.
They like that.
Because they're right.
But let's try. Wangari Maathai, come to my assistance. I need it.
Well,
the other thing. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that while there is some technology that is coming up, I was going to echo what the Prime Minister of Ethiopia said this morning, that there is need for partnership so that technology can be made available to the developing countries so that they can indeed do something about their climate change. But I also want to take this opportunity to actually thank the British government, which has demonstrated that this partnership by giving the Central African countries $100 million to try to avoid deforestation in their part of the world, because we need that block of forest in Central Africa.
But Africa is an easier one to sort out.
America's easier.
Africa accounts for what? How much of global carbon emissions? A fraction.
Very
the United States, 22%. This is where the problem. You could fix Africa,
I completely agree.
You still have problems. Therefore, the question becomes, gentlemen, what do you do about the United States? You have to make the use of carbon, I come back to that point, so expensive. So
let me just give you something to think about.
You wouldn't do that. You might lose jobs and all the rest of it.
What has happened to the price of oil in the last half a dozen years? It's gone from $25 a barrel to $80 a barrel, and the economy is infinitely better. You've got to be very careful in thinking that you can, by penalizing something, necessarily get people to use less. There's not a lot of evidence that that has worked.
Maybe it hasn't gone up enough.
Well, one of the things that's happened is people are using less oil. They are more efficient because the price of oil does get you to go, and to the marketplace really does work. And so people are doing things more efficiently. But in the end, you've got to do it on the profit side as opposed to on the tax side. I'm not opposed to forcing people to do things if it's in everybody's interest. I'm not opposed to using tax policy to encourage development in one place or discourage people from doing something else. I'm in favor of using congestion pricing in New York City to get fewer people to drive. But the truth of the matter is, just saying, well, let's tax them and they will behave one way. The price of oil should be a wake-up call for all of us. It has not slowed down the economy, even though it's tripled, and there's no economist that would have predicted that.
What's missing here are the rules of the road. So a company today making a decision doesn't know if they'll get credit for their early action. So I take these steps today, make the investments the right thing to do, and what if legislation comes in 2 years and we don't know we'll get credit and we'll have to start all over again? So if we could get some legislation now, you would unleash so many projects that would happen. And that's all we need is the rules of the road.
And if America cuts back on its use of carbon energy, then you will find manufacturers going to other countries where energy is cheaper in order to keep their costs down. You'd lose jobs here. That would be the bottom line. You'd lose jobs, and who would advocate that?
America is a great place to manufacture. It's one of our most competitive countries in the world. It's a myth that we're not.
That's correct.
And we're moving to higher and higher levels of technology. And I'm absolutely convinced we could be much more successful and create more jobs. The president's exactly right from this work.
Every time we do something for the environment, it makes money and creates a new class of jobs and creates more different jobs. That's why I say, even though Africa's a smaller problem, well, we have to have some industrialization there, we'll have to give an offset for them. But in America, in Europe, in the other countries, and in China and India, because they have so much money, they can create more jobs by cleaning the environment than they can by polluting it.
Right.
You believe that, don't you?
I think it's time for the United States to show leadership, and I believe other countries will follow. We need climate legislation, possibly something around energy, something around the environment. The details can be worked out, but something so companies and individuals know that when I invest in that more efficient building, I'm going to be rewarded for that.
Wangari Maathai, you want to see the states do something like that?
Well, I think it is extremely important because unless we have regulations, as you said yourself, that if companies find that they can go to places where they can do things cheaper, they will go. And quite often, it's very, very important that especially in poorer countries where they're looking for jobs, they're looking for investments, that there are regulations that are going to be stopping people going to pollute elsewhere because they cannot pollute at home. And quite often we have advocated for international codes that will control companies wherever they go to invest.
So let me add something about competitiveness. It is true that price and expenses are a factor in every business decision, but nevertheless, in the end, companies go where their employees want to live. And the cleaner the air, the more exciting the city, the safer the streets, the better the public education system, the more of the employees are going to want to live there, and then companies will come there. If you were right that cost is the only thing, why would all these Japanese and Korean automobile manufacturers be opening plants in the United States? Why would China be building manufacturing plants in Eastern Europe? It isn't. If cheap labor was the only thing, or cheap energy, there would be no business in the United States.
It's a broader question, and it's not my point. It's one, as you know, that's made by many people. I mean, if you look in the United...
Yeah, they're wrong.
Yeah, in the United Kingdom, maybe, but... And they'll say...